All right. I want to welcome everybody to another weekly episode of NOMBERG Law Live. I want to thank everybody for patience and giving me a week off. We took off last week and we are hitting it full stride this week. I want to welcome my guest, Big Mike Allbee out of Arlington, Texas. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's so good to see you. It's been a while since we've chatted either in person or online, but certainly keep up with you online and through social media. But it's so good to see you, and I'm looking forward to our chat today.
Likewise, likewise. It's always fun to catch up. We should have been catching up a couple weeks ago at Max LawCon, so at least we can have this as a substitute.
Yeah, that's right. There's nothing like being in each other's presence, but this will have to do for now, and we'll find us a time soon enough. For you guys who don't know Big Mike, Mike's an attorney in Arlington, Texas. He does a lot of personal injury case law, trial lawyer extraordinaire, and all around just awesome dude. And that's why I wanted to have a fun conversation with him today. But Mike, if you would tell folks a little bit more about yourself, your family, and your practice before we jump in.
Sure. So I'm married to a very patient woman who puts up with me because I would not want to be married to me. Um, she's a teacher, an elementary school teacher, so that further shows how patient she is. I've got three kids, and they're between the ages of 13 and 10. So we packed it all in all at once. Um, like you said, I own a personal injury law firm. We're in Arlington, Texas, which is smack dab in the middle of Dallas and Fort Worth, so right in the middle of the Metroplex. And I've been in business for about 7 years. Worked for a couple of law firms before that where I got a lot of trial experience and learned some good things from other lawyers. I went to school a little bit later than most people. I was really good at putting school off. I wasn't quite sure how to pay for it or what I wanted to do, but once I figured it out, I kind of jumped through and did it at warp speed.
Excellent, excellent. Where'd you grow up, Mike?
I grew up in Southern California,
Mm-hmm.
and then I lived there my whole life, but actually moved to Arizona later, which is where I met my wife, and she kind of helped me discover that new gear that I didn't know existed. So we lived in Arizona. We both graduated from Arizona State University.
Mm-hmm.
And then for law school, we moved to Kansas, went to the University of Kansas. And then after law school, that's when we moved to Texas.
I was going to ask you, how did you keep making your way further east as different stages in life? How did you end up in the Arlington area?
Well, there's native Texans, and then there's those of us who got here as soon as we could, right?
That's right. That's right.
So for me, it kind of goes way, way, way back, actually. Um, when I lived in California, one of my best friends was originally from Texas.
Mhm.
And I came to Texas with him for about a month one summer with his mom and his siblings. And I loved it. Totally fell in love with it.
Mhm.
We came to Austin and Houston and a little bit in San Antonio. And it just seemed right. I can't, just the feel was just, it was like total Americana, I loved it. And so I always kind of had that in the back of my mind of liking Texas. And then I had a sales job in my early 20s, and my territory was Dallas Fort Worth. And so I used to look up all these areas we marketed to teachers for online master's degrees and stuff like that. And it was funny because actually after law school, I used to go out during the week and do what I call informational interviews with lawyers in Kansas City, where I try and get in front of them, woo them a little bit, but ask them what they did. And I remember calling my wife one day and saying, "This isn't it. Kansas City is not our spot." And she said, "Well, where is?" And I said, "It just seems like for me, it seems like it's gloomy. Not that Kansas City is a gloomy place, but it just didn't feel like warm and fuzzy." So she goes, "Well, where feels sunny?" And I said, "Texas." And so we drove down to Texas and we scouted it out. And Austin had grown so much, which is where I thought we'd go, that I didn't recognize it. And it kind of reminded me actually of California with how crowded it was and the traffic. And I was like, I don't know about that. But I told my wife as we were coming up to go back to Kansas, I said, "Let's stop by this little spot that I used to, see on maps. It looks beautiful, and it's called Rockwall. And we woke up in the morning, and we're driving across this beautiful lake. The sun is rising, the birds are chirping, and my wife's like, sold, So we came to Rockwall initially, and then I got a job in Arlington. That's when we migrated to Mansfield. And then now, actually, I mentioned before we got on the call, we're looking at moving. We have a house under contract. And one of the things we like about it is that it's on the other side of a lake from where we're at right now. And so when you drive there, it's not heavy traffic. It's this beautiful lake, and it's this transition of going from work to home. And so we're excited actually for that commute. So if it happens.
How far is your new commute going to be, assuming that all goes as planned?
It's going to be 25 minutes. Right now, it's 19 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's, like I said, a lot of it's on a road with, no freeway traffic, so.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, what led you to the law? What led you to doing the type of work that you're doing now?
It's funny because I feel like I'm a disappointment to a lot of my family. I come from a family of educators. My mom's an elementary principal. My brother's a teacher. My sister's a teacher. We have one other black sheep who's not a teacher, sister. But their spouses are teachers. My wife's a teacher. Probably 8 people on her side of the family are teachers.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of teachers. So I actually thought I wanted to be a history teacher until I realized I didn't really have the patience for it. And during my time at ASU, I took a class on racism and the law. And it was taught by an attorney who had been to law school, because that's kind of how he taught it. It was not show up, give me your assignments, get an A class. It was very tough. But really opened my eyes to the power of the law, the things that you can do, advocating for people, things of that nature. And then I also have a brother-in-law who's an attorney, and he had a really sincere conversation with me. And he kind of gently nudged me and said, I don't think everybody should be a lawyer, but I think you could do it and do it well. That meant something to me. And then really just kind of trying to feel after it, right? And see what God would want me to do. So I did feel like it would seem like something that I could, do good and help people. And I think it would be my skill set fit it well as well.
Well, you're from getting to know you over the last couple of years, you certainly have the right temperament. And from a teaching standpoint, I suspect part of your arguments around the kitchen table is you're educating people all the time. It's just a different format, a different way to do so.
Absolutely.
But everybody has their journey. I love hearing how people got to where they are. But we've got several of our buddies who are on. I want to give a shout out to Chris Nicholson is with us. Brooks Derrick has joined us, some of our Max Law guys. I've got some local lawyers and other friends on with us. And I'm talking with Big Mike Allbee out of Arlington, Texas. And Mike, I've heard you speak. We've broken bread together before. I've heard you on many other podcasts, but you've got some awesome stories. And I know there's a few I definitely want to get to. Most notably, I want to start with you in law school at Kansas and your nighttime job. I want you to share with us that story, which is part of your journey.
Sure. So I had 2 kids when I started law school and a wife, and I wanted to jump through that hoop quickly because borrowing student loans to pay for family is not the cheapest thing in the world. And so the University of Kansas had a program where you could finish your Juris Doctorate in 2 years if you started in the summer, took heavier load, and went year round. So I was doing that, and I was still trying to save money. And so what I realized is there's 2 job categories. You can get a student job and be a janitor or whatever, or you could get a university job, and the university job would get you in-state tuition, health insurance, and all this stuff. So I showed up at this interview, and the guy says, I don't hire students. And I said, you're going to save me about $70,000. I'm going to show up and clean like you've never seen before. And he said, okay. And it was actually started off on the opposite. It was actually in the morning. I go to work at 4 a.m, and I get off at 8, and then I go to class at 9. And it was kind of hard, and then you've heard me mention before, my last son, because my wife and I try and do everything at one time and get it done yesterday, we had our last child our final semester. So here I am chugging through, doing it in 2 years, and working at 4 in the morning. And then he was born premature. And so he was at a hospital that was about 40 minutes away in their NICU for a few weeks. And we were very lucky. We knew real early on that he was going to live, and that was good. But it was still a very stressful time, and I was really tired between working, school, visiting my son, helping be a father for my other 2 kids, and a husband who's there for life. It's just a busy
stressful time.
Yeah. So there was this one building that I would clean, and they were in a transition of going from one chancellor to the other. So they moved the outgoing chancellor to this building, and he had an office there. And sometimes I was exhausted, literally. And so what I would do is, these people were pretty neat. Their floors didn't get trashed all the time. So when I was truly exhausted, I would just plow through everything that I could as fast as I could. And then I would just spot vacuum the floor instead of vacuuming the whole floor. And what I did is I would go into the outgoing chancellor's office, and I would just sleep on the floor in his office and get a 20 or 30-minute power nap. And part of my thinking is nobody was going to go in and mess with his office. And it worked out. It wasn't a daily occurrence, but there were times where I was truly crashing and just needed a power nap. So I've slept on his office floor a handful of times. So
did they ever find out, or did you ever tell them?
No, they never found out. I did a pretty dang good job of doing what I was supposed to, and that was one area where I felt like I can skimp on that today and they're not going to notice, and I'll make up for it tomorrow, kind of thing. But yeah, I never got caught or had an issue there.
So. Well, it just, and here's why I wanted you to bring up that story. It shows, for those who don't know you or didn't know this story, it shows a work ethic. It shows that you're willing to get stuff done timely, and getting it all done the right way, and doing your responsibilities. And if your children don't know that story by now, I suspect they do. It really is such a great example for them and for many others. So I appreciate you sharing that. I'm sure it was extraordinarily stressful and tiring for you, for both you and your wife, for those couple of years trying to get through grad school or law school, excuse me, and then having such young children at the time. Now maybe you can look back and kind of laugh a little bit, but I'm sure at the time you weren't a whole lot of laughs.
My wife actually, on the first day of school, we were renting this duplex, and it didn't have a fenced yard, and our son was very energetic and needed to play outside like all kids should be able to do. And so we bought this wire fence, and she knew I was busy, and so she tried to help. So she started putting the fence up, and she slipped and fell and broke her leg.
Oh no.
And she had the army crawl into the house, and she couldn't get a hold of me. I was in my very first day of law school, and so she had to call an ambulance. We just moved to town, really didn't know anybody yet, and they took the kids with her, and finally, and we were a one-car family at the time too, so I had to get us a ride home and then go get her. So I actually got to meet one of my law professors by knocking on his office door on the first day and saying, "Hi, my name's Mike. This is not how I wanted to meet you. I got to go. My family's at the hospital." So when we look back at that phase, yeah, there were a lot of challenges during that time, and it was, but, my wife has always said that she was so glad to be there during those bumps in the road, because it helps to have both of us on board with those experiences to appreciate how far we've come along too.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Those shared experiences and that history for you guys, and now for the children. And pre-pandemic, I know that you guys love to travel. Yes. And you are one of the aces on finding deals and going places. And I want you to share the story that I've heard a couple of times, that on a whim, you found such an amazing trip. So I want you to share a little bit about how that fell into place and the experience that you guys took.
I thought you were actually going to ask about my checked bag experience. That's worth talking about too.
Oh yeah, no, we're coming to that one too.
Yeah, so actually, I'm getting Facebook memories today. We were in New Zealand a year ago today, and man, that place is just amazing. Highly, highly, highly recommend. It's a long flight to get there, but you know, we got to see Tonga and New Zealand play rugby. We got to go to the Lord of the Rings, Hobbiton town. Okay, I know that's a black or white, all in, all out type thing, but
Right.
I don't like Lord of the Rings. It's not my thing.
Mhm.
But Hobbiton was amazing. I would go back. That's how cool it was. So, but yeah, we've done a couple of different trips. Like I know I try and do trips one-on-one with my kids sometimes. It brings out a whole different experience. So I called my wife up one time and I said, hey, are you okay with me taking our daughter on a trip this weekend? And we'll pop her out of school a day and a half. She's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Where are you going to go? And I said, Iceland. And we found tickets for like, I think it was like $175 a piece or something, you know?
From Dallas.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we went to Iceland for 4 days. Loved it. I'd want to go back there again. We went to Italy for Christmas this year. We went for about 2 weeks, and round trip we paid about, I think it was $225 a person.
And people who are watching and listening to us, they want to know how in the world do you find these deals? Give us one or two of your secrets.
So I actually have. Let me see if I can find this real quick. BigMind.com/travel. So basically, there are Facebook groups that post deals, and what they will do is they'll say, hey, you know, like I have a friend who told me about it, who okay, so if you go to callbigmike.com/travel.
Mike, I just put the link to the website on the show notes so people will be able to start there.
Awesome. So yeah, callbigmike.com/travel. I have 2 videos that explain exactly what I do.
Awesome.
And I use a combo of Google Flights and these other free Facebook groups. And we were actually, I got a little irritated because I got a notification the other day saying it was time to board our flight for Peru. We're supposed to be in Peru this week. And
oh man.
so, but you know, things could be worse. We're very blessed. We're in a good spot, and Peru will still be there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we like to travel a lot, and I think, you know, it kind of comes down to what are your preferences? You know, how do you spend your money? For us, experiences are really big as a family, and so you know, we might not have a swimming pool, or we might not necessarily have certain things, but that's where we choose to, you know, spend money in a lopsided manner because we want those experiences.
Well, Mike, I was just getting ready to ask you, and you partly just answered it, is you have a very busy household, two very busy adult parents. The kids have all their activities. What's their age range right now?
10 to 13.
Oh, that's the prime of busy time. Right in middle school, elementary school, they've got all those activities that I'm sure they're involved in. But breaking away and taking these family trips, whether it's some combination of the family or it's everybody, why is that, and how has that become so important, so central to your family dynamics and experiences?
You know, it really, the world is so big, yet it's so small. And I think as my kids start to travel and see things, my favorite thing is when they hear a clue on Jeopardy and they're like, oh, you know, we've been there. Or they see a show and they start to connect dots. And so I think it's really helped them with understanding different cultures. When we go, we often will stay at an Airbnb in a neighborhood. Like when we went to France, we had a nightly tradition where we would stop and can either get a crepe or you could get ice cream. And we'd come up the subway stairs each night. And after the second night, they're like, hey, how's it going? You know, and they knew we were coming in. And so there was a barbecue joint down the road, and they were so excited when they found out not only that we are from America, but we're also from Texas. So we really feel like it's great to connect
Right.
with the local people, and it blows their mind to see how things are, because every country has things where you kind of scratch your head and say, oh, I don't know about that, or oh my goodness, that's brilliant, I've never thought of that. And so it just expands their horizons. And I feel like the more we travel, um, my wife initially, she was very cautious and hesitant to leave the country, just because she didn't know how we would communicate, how things would work out. And now, it's apples and oranges. She's all about it. One of our favorite experiences was eating a dinner in the middle of Normandy, France, in some small town where the guy did not speak a single word of English, and we were talking past each other. The next thing you know, we're belly laughing because we have no idea what the other's saying, and we're just figuring. It's one of our favorite experiences. So we actually also try and rent a car, even though it's not always the most economically smart decision, but to get out of the big popular cities to go experience other places. So it's all about the experiences. That's, things are things, but experiences can't be taken from you.
All right, I've got two questions off of this. One, was the barbecue that you had in France, was that a native to France barbecue, or was it somebody who came over from the States to do their thing?
He was French, and it had some Texas something word in the restaurant name, but it was not the best barbecue I've had in my life, but it was pretty dang good. It was like I would eat there again if I was in the area.
Awesome, awesome. Second question, when are you starting the Allbee travel group, and can I get in on the ground floor of this?
Let's start it today.
Well, you gotta tell us about the luggage story as well, because that's some of the best stuff.
So we were going to visit my family in California for Thanksgiving, and the way that my sons play football, and they had a late night game, was the Pee Wee Super Bowl. And so we had to stay for that, but then we had to get out. So we were leaving early in the morning out of Dallas. And it was one of those mornings where everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And so, there's scrambling that shouldn't have taken place. There was early morning traffic due to construction that brought us to a crawl. Just every problem. So we still got there early enough to catch a flight, but there's a cutoff for you to check your baggage. And we missed it by like 3 minutes, and they were not going to budge on that. Mm-hmm. So the lady at the counter said, well, we can try and rebook you for a later flight. And I go, well, this is the weekend before Thanksgiving. Are there even any openings? And she said, no. And it was going to cost, like $1,500 to rebook and all this stuff. So I said, we got to make this flight. And this is kind of where Mike mode kicks in, where it's problem solving. Okay, that didn't work. Let's back up, try this. That didn't work. Let's try this over and over and over. And so luckily it was just one option. So what we did is it was early in the morning, and the airport had been empty. So we went over to, we found some garbage bags that were clean and empty. And so we took the contents of our luggage out and put some things in those, like our toiletries and stuff. But then me and my kids and my wife, we put on 5 layers of clothes. So I had 2 pairs of pants on, and a pair of regular shorts, and then a pair of gym shorts, and 5 t-shirts and all this stuff. And we carried just our toiletries in a bag onto the plane. And it was funny too, though, because when we got to LA, we were renting a car, and I overheard these people in front of us, and they said, wow, we sure are blessed. Look at these people. They're just, I don't know what's going on with them. And the flight attendants actually were awesome. They got us higher quality bags, because they were kind of like looking at us, and my wife told them what was going on. And then they said, oh, let us get you some sturdier bags. So it worked out. And from that time on, we've always been extra early when we fly out of anywhere. So
Mike, it's so great. Did you happen to look anything like Joey?
So I actually am not a friend fanatic, but that's what a lot of people ask me. They're like, this is just like Joey. And yes, that's very much how I looked. So
Awesome.
it was
Awesome.
fun.
Oh, that's such great stories, and that leads me to what we finally are talking a little bit about the law. And I'm talking with Big Mike Allbee out of Arlington, Texas, and we're just Mike sharing some awesome stories just about life and the journey that we all are on, and that's I think those stories are just so fascinating. But you mentioned problem solving, and that's one of the keys in life is figuring out whatever the stumbles, whatever the hurdles are in front of you. And I know you bring some of that passion, some of that mentality, and to your law practice. And I know for my practice, probably similar to yours, when people come in, they think they need a lawyer. They're not exactly sure why, or maybe they think they know, but there are issues because there's no such thing as a perfect case, as we know. And I want you to share a little bit of your philosophy about problem solving when it comes to helping clients, representing them in your cases. So share with us a little bit about that approach.
Yeah, I think that actually kind of goes back to my childhood. I always heard my dad say that his dad would say, which I now say to my kids, you can be bitter or you can be better. And so anytime you have any type of problem or challenge, it's up to you to decide, do I stop in my tracks or do I figure something out or even learn from a loss or whatever it may be. And so that's just kind of the attitude I've been raised with. And I actually want to toot my staff's horn because that's what they do. They are very much invested in resolving issues. And I actually have to tell clients when they're a new client, say, look, just so you know, when you call, you're going to have whoever answers the phone, they're going to say, you're going to say, I want to talk to Mike. They're going to say, great. What is it that you need to speak with Mike? I go, they're not trying to screen the call necessarily. They want to fix the problem right then and there. Mm-hmm. So you don't need to get the lawyer on the phone and say, hey, I lost that letter that had the address for where my mediation is. They will pull that up, and so they're really, really good at that, which helps me because they still come to me with concerns of, hey, wait a second, we've hit this roadblock. What should we do? But it's more limited because they're doing that straight out the gate on any case as well. So it really helps us as a team to have all of us truly invested in trying to resolve that problem. If we pick something up, there's a problem, we're going to try and fix it right then and there. So it's something that just, you got to do it because you can't keep track of every single thing. You got to set tasks and reminders and get it done when you have that chance.
And it's one of what you're telling me, what I'm hearing is that you're lowering the stress of the people who are coming into you looking for answers. And I think that's what it is their stress levels are already so high. They've not been through these issues before. They've never been in a catastrophic automobile accident or some type of horrible injury situation. And they don't know what's next or what their rights are. And by providing those answers, I think you're helping to lower their stress. You're giving them some confidence. You're building a rapport. And I think that's just, you're right. It's not just from the lawyer, it's the whole staff. And the staff is as well, a well-oiled machine as you may have. They really can solve so many issues even before you have to be involved. And that's a real tribute to what you're building at your office.
And I think communication is really, really big in setting those expectations. Like they don't know where it's going to go, like you're saying, right? And if you can let them know, okay, this is what's going on, this is what's happening next. And, because that's the problem too with law, nothing is cookie cutter. Even though there might be patterns for a big chunk, every single case is unique. And so if you don't think that, then you need to move on to another career. And so that's where it gets complicated if you're setting expectations and say, well, we're going to do this. If that doesn't work out, then we're going to do this. If that does work out, we're going to do this. If it doesn't, we do that. It's like the, paths that diverge on a regular basis. But yeah, if you can help with that communication, setting expectations, keeping them in the loop throughout the process too, that's a big thing too. Then, because like if I come into a bank and the personal banker says, you know, they acknowledge me and say, I'm going to be about 5 minutes, or let's say 10. I'm going to be about 10 minutes with them. I'm going to sit there for 10 minutes. I'm going to be okay, knowing they're aware of me, they're going to help me, and I have an expectation. Whereas if I sit there, sometimes we go to businesses and some employees will try and play let's ignore and act like they don't exist.
Right.
Drives me nuts. If I'm sitting there for 10 minutes and they won't make eye contact with me or anything like that, I start to get frustrated. So that communication and expectations is really big at calming the clients down, you know, because we actually have to file a lawsuit quite a bit. And a lot of people think, well, they've got insurance, it'll all work out. I don't even know why I need a lawyer. And it's like, oh, you need one, you know? And so, you know, we're able to calm them and keep them calm. And we say, okay, they're not offering enough money. We're going to hold them accountable. And to do that, we have to file a lawsuit. This is how it works. This is why. And don't freak out, you know?
Gosh, you're right. That communication aspect with clients is just so very important, because I think that's what brings about so many bar complaints by clients, is that my lawyer won't tell me what's going on. My
Yeah.
lawyer hasn't responded to me in 3 months, or whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, there's so many other great things that we could talk about. We hadn't talked about Dallas Cowboys football. We hadn't talked about Max Law. There's so many other great things, but I know we both have stuff we've got to get going for today. So I want to thank you for your time today, my friend.
Thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to the next time we can actually get together physically. It's a bummer, like I said, that Max LawCon didn't happen this year, but there's always next year, and we can stay optimistic and hopefully it'll work out.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I wanna quash any rumors you may have heard that Tyson is behind the pandemic and the having the Max Law Con 20 basically go online and canceled for this year. I don't know what's going on with him, but somebody needs to get him straight.
I'll say though, Tyson's not as shady as he looks, you know. So
No, I love those guys. Jim and
absolutely.
Tyson do such a great job. But Mike, as always, my friend, good to see you. And the guys, this will be it for today's discussion with interesting people in their areas of expertise. And Big Mike out of Arlington, Texas, absolutely fits that bill. Such a wonderful conversation we just had. As we try to every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific, NOMBERG Law Live. We try to bring you new conversations each week. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Take care.
Thanks.